All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for coming to Intervale Community Farm for our 29th annual meeting and our capping off our 32nd season in growing vegetables for all of you in the Intervale. I look forward to meeting in person with you all next year, or so I hope. A couple administrative details as we get going. First of all, your video and your microphone are not enabled, so you don't have to worry about anyone seeing you or hearing you. If you have a technical question, i.e. for some reason you can't see the slideshow or the sound isn't working or something like that, you can put a question or a request in the chat. If you look at the buttons on the bottom of your screen, you may have to move your mouse down there to make the buttons appear, but there's a chat button. And if you click on that chat button, you can type your question. Maria, who is our webinar wizard and tech support person, will do her best to get everything working for you again. If you have an informational question, why does Intervale Community Farm grow tomatoes inside as opposed to in the field, or something of that nature, please put that question into the Q&A. Also, a button appearing on the bottom of your Zoom screen. We're collecting the Q&A questions, and Kathy will go through them with me at the end of the hour, and we'll do our best to answer those. If you submitted a question with your registration, which you were encouraged to do, we have those questions, and you don't need to duplicate it in the Q&A. This meeting is being recorded, so if you are interested and you loved it and you want to look at it again, or you want to share it with someone you think might like it, we will have information and the link to the recording available soon on our website and through other channels. And lastly, if something goes amiss, I just ask for your patience. The technical side of this will probably run flawlessly, as it did last year with Maria's help, but in the event that it doesn't, thank you in advance for your patience. We are on the land which has served as a site of meeting and exchange among indigenous peoples for thousands of years and is the home of the Western Abenaki peoples. The Intervale Community Farm honors, recognizes, and respects these peoples, especially the Abenaki, as the traditional stewards of the place where we gather today. In that spirit, we acknowledge that we are guests on this land. We need to respect and help protect the lands and waters within our use. This was recommended to us by Don Stevens, a chief of the Nulhegan Band of the Coosac Abenaki Nation. I'll have a little bit more on that later. I wanted to start out by thanking all the people that made this possible. First among you, the members, all of you zooming in today and coming for 32 years to ICF to pick up your vegetables. You've stuck with us through thick and thin. You can now add pandemic to the number of different challenges and maladies that you've all endured with Intervale Community Farm. It really does make a difference, your support to the staff and to the board. To know that you are all out there behind us, appreciating, enjoying the work that we do, and sharing that love with us. Your comments, your notes, your treats, and your contributions really keep us going. So thank you. I also wanted to say a thank you to Intervale Community Farm and its wonderful board. The board of directors, the 9 members on the board, are the membership representative on the co-op board of what you all are interested in over the long term for Intervale Community Farm. And these 9 people give their time every month and more than that with things like the annual meeting and other things that we do through the year. to really think about how can ICF best serve its membership and the wider community. So I'm grateful to all of the board for their continued work with that. I want to say a special thank you to outgoing board member Diane Abruzzini, who is also a former ICF staff person and is stepping down after serving on the board for one term of 3 years. So Diane, you've made great contributions to the ICF organization over the years, and you will be missed. I also wanted to say thanks to Maria Richards, who is our wonderful webinar wizard and tech support person. Without her help, this whole affair this evening wouldn't come together. And not lastly, I want to call out the amazing and talented Intervale Community Farm staff. These are the people that grow your food on a daily basis, and without them, none of us would be eating all this wonderful produce for the 12 months of the year that it's available. They do the planting and the weeding and the washing and the watering and the distribution and the organizing and the managing of all of your questions and requests and things like that on a daily basis through 95-degree heat, 20-degree cold, rain, mosquitoes, you name it. And they're there thick and thin. So I'm grateful to be working with them on a daily basis. They are the best coworkers, and they're also amazing cooks. So thank you, Ali Martel, Silas Branson, Kathy Sullivan, Sarah Howe, Samantha DuPont, Maya Bauer, Bella Palmieri, Chris Spencer, Colin Swanson, Emma Gonzalez, Will Pearl, Meg Lysak, and Georgia McDougall. You guys are all the best. So to recap, use the chat button for technical issues, use the Q&A for informational questions, and thank you in advance for your presence and your patience. With that, I am going to turn the meeting over to May Quilty, an ICF board member, to talk a little bit about the Intervale Community Farm Board's activities. Thank you, May.
Thanks, Andy, and thank you everyone for joining this evening. I'm May Quilty. I'm an ICF board member. I'm in my second year. And as Andy shared, we're a 9-person board that's elected by the membership, which you'll hear more about this evening when we hear from this year's candidates. This is the second year where we've been predominantly virtual in our monthly meetings, which has definitely posed some challenges, but it's also posed some great opportunities for us. One of the biggest opportunities that we've had this past year is kind of a result of our January board retreat, which is typically an opportunity for the board and staff to come together one time a year and really be intentional about kind of bringing those different facets of the farm together. And this year really took the opportunity to create more than one opportunity per year to do that. We've had staff members join our board meetings. We've created 2 committees with both equal members of the board and staff, our governance committee, as well as our racial justice committee. And it's been really incredible in this year to kind of see the change in opportunities and ways to connect. We've started a 3-part racial justice series with local trainer Rhiannon Kim, which we're in the midst of right now, which has been a really incredible opportunity. I'd encourage folks to look into her work. And we've also created some new opportunities with the governance work. Most recently, we've made the decision to offer a free summer share, small summer share to board members, which hopefully some people saw in our call for board candidates. And that's really an opportunity for us to think about how we can reach people who might not otherwise have thought about board service previously. So we're hoping to kind of see how that goes and help us to reach a broader group of members. In just a moment, we're going to share a photo of our board. And yes, that sound is my dog. I apologize. She's not happy that I'm not paying attention to her. So I'll try and wrap up quickly. But this is our lovely board here. And we have Diane Abruzzini, who Andy spoke about previously. We're sad to lose her this year, but excited about some potential new candidates. Bonnie Acker, Christopher McCandless, Liz Mickenberg, Emily Portman, Maya Smith, Mark Tweary, and our newest board member, Miyako Ozeki, who was appointed this past May when there was a vacancy by Andrea Salazzo. So we're really excited to welcome Miyako to the board and to hear from this year's candidates. Thank you so much to the board and to the incredible ICF staff who it's been really great to connect with this year. I'm going to go back on mute so no one has to hear my dog, but thank you all so much.
All right, thank you. All right, I am going to run us through our annual slideshow. And oops, except that I'm going to share my screen to start with. There we are. Okay. This is always a little bit of a fun endeavor to look back at the season. And it is really just a tiny portion of what happens at Intervale Community Farm over the course of the, whoopsie. All right, is that coming through now? Yes, great. A tiny portion of what happens at Innovative Community Farm over the course of the year. But I want to start by saying thank you to all the Innovative Community Farm staff and a couple of members of the wider community for sharing your photos with us and sharing the photos so that I can put together this, this little retrospective. And I hope that it tells a little bit of a story about some of the things that we do besides growing food. Also want to say special thank you to Bonnie Acker, who provides us with an untold amount of artwork and has done so for 3 decades. So this is her design, and thank you very much, Bonnie. So it's always fun to talk about the crops to start. And we had some things that do well every year and some things that don't do so well. And each year is a little different in what does well. This year, the cucumbers were kind of crazy. It marked a transition. Jill Rotundo, who had worked for ICF for about the last 10 years and looked after all of our indoor crops, left to do some other amazing adventures. And so Chris Spencer and Maya Bauer stepped in to look after the cucumbers and the tomatoes in Chris's case, and the peppers and Maya's, and things turned out really well. It's a group effort. We're in here every week working on pruning and trellising and picking stuff. But it was a really great cuke season for us. We had cucumbers picked every day for almost 4 months, which we've never been able to manage quite before. So we're looking forward to a productive cucumbers, continuing to learn and improve our cucumbers in the future, but it was a great crop this year. Similarly, the peppers were amazing. I do think I can say with certainty that tomorrow will be the first winter share where we've gone out the morning of winter share and picked peppers. We still have live peppers in our tunnels. Frost is getting later and later. There's no doubt, looking back over 30 years, that fall has extended a long ways. And that for me is the real tangible example of climate change at ICF, is how much later we are able to do so many things, including work with frost tender crops, than we were able to 30 years ago. We had a great strawberry crop this year. It's been probably 10 years. It's hard to remember back that far, but they were plentiful, they were delicious, the quality was really good, and the season went later than they often do. So everything kind of lined up for us. It's not really clear to me why, and so I don't know that we'll be able to continue. But nonetheless, it was really enjoyable, and it looks like we've set the table for next year's crop to be good, at least as much as it's within our control. We have a nice, these plants, which will be fruiting in their 2nd year, looked really healthy going into the fall, as did the new plants that we put in April and will be producing for their 1st year next year. Those also look really good. The flowers are often really lovely, but boy, they were really great this year. And I think they appreciated the slightly cooler weather than we had in 2020. And so they just kept going and going and going into the fall. Special thanks to Allie, who organizes all of our flowers, plants them all, chooses them, gets things in the right location and looks after them, which again, it's a team effort, but she's the coordinator. And so she's enjoying the flowers right there with her nephew Roman. Potatoes were probably my vote for most improved. We had a terrible potato crop in 2020. We did have some trouble this year with a red potato that a number of people brought to our attention, that we were having internal defects. Something we've never seen before, never encountered. Really a little bit of a surprise and a new thing to us, because the same conditions had never resulted in trouble in other potatoes in the past. So it was a new thing. The fortunate thing is that the other 4 varieties of potatoes all look really nice. So we were able to have a good quantity of potatoes for summer share and have a nice, a good, significant, high quality bit of storage potatoes going into the winter for the whole winter. We had a few things that were disappointing. Here are Bella and Meg washing carrots last week. Last week's carrots and the carrots we've been eating for a month have been really great. But our summer carrots this year were a little disappointing for flavor and texture. Similarly, the beets, both of those I think were really varieties that we hadn't grown before and ended up growing because we were unable to get seed for our tried and true. So I'm really hopeful we'll be able to go back to our favorite ones, because we were disappointed with both of those. And similarly, the broccoli struggled. Anybody who went to pick snap beans or basil also know that those weren't at their best this year either. But fortunately, we have a lot of things that do well, and we really put our energy into those things each year. Maya here is grafting tomatoes. We graft our tomatoes for higher productivity and longevity in our tunnels. So she has on one side of her the tomatoes where the top grows a delicious tomato in a fruit quality that we like, and a bottom where the roots are super disease resistant, very effective at extracting nutrients. And so you take the really solid root ball and really strong base, your rootstock, and you graft the scion of your fruiting type on top. You cut the top of one, the bottom off the other. You take this little silicone clip, which you can see a whole bunch of right there, and you clip it together. It spends 5 days in a little healing chamber, maybe a week, then goes into the greenhouse for another 4 weeks, and then goes into the ground. You can see here those plants later on. They have a little stake because they're not quite as strong as the other plants initially. Emma's getting the trellising set up, which Chris is working on here, and Sam is laying out the plants. Those things go into the ground the first week of May, and then by the end of August, it's a jungle. They're all the way up to the 9.5-foot ceiling there. We had a fun little opportunity this year. We've been working for about the last 5 years with a Dutch organic seed company, Vitalis. Their local regional rep is Adrienne Shelton, and she has been bringing us tomatoes to trial under organic production systems to see if we can solve the elusive problem of a lot of greenhouse tomatoes looking really good and producing really well, but not tasting that great. So we had 10 different red tomatoes here that we were trying. Different stages, different fruit, but all the same varieties within each one of these columns. And we had some fairly similar opinions, slightly different, but a lot of people coalesced around ones that were favored tomatoes, and we're hopeful that hopefully some of those will make it into their catalog for the coming years. Some of the striped tomatoes and the purple tomatoes, if you've had any of those from the trays I pick up, were outgrowths of prior rounds of trialing that we had done for Vitalis. And salad is always the other day-to-day, week by week crop that we spend a lot of time and energy focusing. Tomato and salad crop, the baby salad greens are always the top 2 items on our surveys, and they're also always the top 2 items in terms of how much they contribute to share value. And that's by design. We want things that people like to be the things that you're getting the most value out of. Here you can see Will and Sarah and Meg and Maya transplanting baby lettuce, which makes up around half of our weekly salad plantings, around 200 bed feet of that. And then we do about 450 bed feet of the mustards here that Colin and Emma are harvesting. And those together make up our various different salad greens for the week. So where that all came out this year in terms of economic value for the summer share was around a 50% additional bonus beyond the retail value of it. Excuse me. So for instance, your small share cost $600, and there was around $300 more of vegetables that you received based on a comparable retail value. That translates into about a 50% bonus this year. The target identified by the ICF board is 40%. Last year we were more like 29 or 35, and we are hopeful that we're getting closer to being able to consistently hit that 40% number. Similarly, last year, last winter share, which ended in May, was around a 20% bonus on the $500 winter share. Our target there is around 10. The big difference and why there's so much difference in bonuses is in the winter share, we just don't have the bumper crop phenomenon that you do get in the summer. Because almost everything's already in storage, and the crops in the tunnels don't grow at the same rates. It was sure nice to have people at the farm again. It was fun to see the sandbox, which we had boarded up, back in use. There were a lot of kids who were really excited and appreciative of getting back in there. We even had some traffic jams in the yard. Again, something that I really missed and many people missed, and many of the youngest kids missed last year. So it was a much more joyous year, I think, at ICF, despite the fact that there were still things that we had to do and change and avoid in response to COVID-19. It was a much less onerous requirement and a much more joyous feeling, I think, to the summer share. Just as a reminder, most of you are probably aware, those of you who are doing the winter share this year, we are requiring masks because it is an indoor space, and we expect that to be just the way that winter goes, significantly closer together than it might be outside. So just be prepared for that. But we're looking forward to a great winter share. We have a lot of great produce ahead of us. All right. We do a lot. One of the things that we're able to do this year that we missed last year to some degree was various different community outreach. And I had read the acknowledgement statement from Don Stevens and the Abenaki earlier. Allie has been working to get us involved in the Abenaki Land Link project, which is a program that puts together the food needs of traditional foods of the Abenaki people with willing growers who want to produce some of those things. So ICF signed up and was able to start growing some things this year. Here are Meg and Maya, who are harvesting the last of our Algonquin winter squash, which we grew as part of that project. It's sort of this long, oblong winter squash. And we also did some corn as a part of that. the thing that I think is especially, or one of the things to me that's especially compelling and reinforces sort of our involvement at ICF on this land as the current stewards of it is things like what you see on the right. A month ago, there was a small excavation by consulting archaeologists at UVM over at the Intervale Conservation Nursery. They were putting in a couple of posts. The nursery field, some of you may have walked through it. It's really a lovely place in the winter when there's very little color in the landscape because they have some really interesting perennial nursery stock over there. But they found in their excavating about 2 feet underground these pot shards that are over 1,000 years old. And there have been people living and farming in the Intervale for eons. And it's important to remember, I mean, there are arrowheads that turn up and pots and scrapers and all sorts of tools, and in some places, you know, even more recognizable things like that. So we are merely the current stewards and occupants of this particular area. This is a close-up of the squash, the Algonquin squash, plus the callus flint corn that we grew as part of that program. And we did a lot of, we were able to continue a pace with a lot of our other community activities that didn't stop during the pandemic last year. Our donations and gleaning program, relationships with the Vermont Food Bank and the Intervale Center, as well as other local agencies and nonprofits, continued. We're up to, I think, over 24,000 pounds and counting at the estimate from the Food Bank and Intervale Center folks. So there's a lot of food that goes from ICF. Most of it is stuff that's seconds qualities. You know, a potato with a little more scab than usual on the outside, or a carrot that's forked, or squash with a skin condition or something like that. But all things is in such demand because it's hard to come by and expensive for people that want it. So it's great. We love our relationships with those organizations and the others who are getting food out to people who need it. We also picked up a lot of things that we weren't able to do last year, resuming the UVM Farmer Training Program, where we host UVM interns a day a week for June, July, August, and September, and October, which is a great program that we've been doing for about 10 years. We had school field trips this year from UVM, but also from Burlington and Winooski secondary schools, donating plants to various different local groups, and providing weekly shares, small senior shares through the Senior Farm Share Program of NOFA Vermont to about 275 local residents in 15 or 16 Cathedral Square Winooski Housing Authority buildings for 10 weeks in the middle of the season. Those programs are all here in part because Intervale Community Farm supports them, and they are of great value to those organizations, and they're a great sense of source of pride for the staff, and also part of how we can contribute back to our wider community. There were a few things that we did in terms of fostering ecology this summer that I just wanted to mention before closing. These are some of our, favorite critters that we see around the Intervale: snapping turtle on the upper left, a frog on a faucet, almost camouflaged. I saw a gray one of these on an irrigation pipe and I thought it was a bump, and it was actually a frog, the same color as the aluminum pipe. And then at the bottom, foxes, which are some of our favorite animals in the Intervale, because if you're not a chicken farmer, it's amazing to have fox around eating voles, eating baby woodchucks, and basically going after all the things that are trouble for us that want to eat our vegetables. So they're not always this cute, but they're always this helpful. So But most of our activity this year was actually doing other things. So we did, this year, we spent some time learning and working with Audubon, Vermont, and UVM Extension this summer to actually start to think specifically about what kind of management or lack of management can we apply to improve habitat for pollinators like these butterflies and birds, which often need many of the same things. So fortunately for us, the Intervale is a wonderful place for most of these organisms, as it is now, with lots of brushy, unkempt hedgerows, lots of smaller fields with perimeters around them. And we're looking forward to, in the future, just altering our mowing practices slightly, maybe augmenting a few things here and there with some planting stock from the conservation nursery to build a really robust environment for pollinators and birds. As it is, the Intervale as a whole is the most diverse and impressive habitat for pollinators that's been noted in Vermont. The species abundance and species richness of native pollinators in the Intervale surpassed all of the major research sites that state researchers have been looking at over the last number of years. So there's a lot of great work that's already happening, and we're excited to continue to try to push that forward. The other thing we did this year was to finally meet our goal of getting solar power at ICF. So I want to call out DC Energy, which was an amazing partner in this whole process between the design and construction side of things, which they did really well and on a really short time frame at the end when it was kind of a crunch time, but also in sort of tirelessly helping us search and put together financing options. They reached out to our partner at Norwich Solar Technologies, which has been a great partner, and ended up with Burlington Solar, Intervale Solar LLC, which is an investor with a long-time connection to ICF, who was able to ultimately fund the project by financing the panels and owning it for 7 years, which ICF will then buy at the end of the 7 years. And in the meantime, on our other two, here are our other two buildings with solar panels. All of those panels are generating enough power for ICF and all of our uses for all of our pumps, all of our walk-in coolers, all of our other electrical needs, plus a little extra for us to grow into, or for what's currently happening, which is other Intervale farms to use for some of their coolers and refrigeration needs. So it's been a great thing, an aspiration, and we're able to finally pull it off this summer. Thanks for a great 2021 season. And with that, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and we are going to move on to the next phase of the night, which is the elections and meeting and hearing from some of the board candidates. So as May mentioned, there are 9 members on the board. Every year there are 3 people who are up for election for 3-year terms. This year we have 4 candidates, Kathy Connolly, Liz Mickenberg, Mandy St. Hilaire, and Mark Tworey, who are running for those 3 seats. You will receive, if you are an Intervale Community Farm cooperative member in good standing, you will receive an email this evening, which is your ballot. You will have 2 weeks to complete the ballot and return it. It's just a little Survey Monkey voting setup, and we will remind you of that if you haven't voted in a week, to do it again, or not to vote again, but we'll remind you again in a week if you haven't voted. But I'm really pleased that we have these 4 individuals who are willing to spend the time and their energy to serve ICF and would like to do so. Without belaboring that anymore, I'm gonna hand it back, and we are gonna watch a few little videos from those folks telling us about them.
Hi, my name is Kathy Connolly. We've been part of the farm for many, many years, and now our son and his family are also part of the farm. We joined the farm because we really appreciate having local sources of food and knowing that our food is healthy and organic. And I love the community that we are part of on the farm. I really believe in the mission of the farm and I support it strongly, and I'm hoping to serve on the board someday. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Liz Mickenberg. I've been on the ICF Co-op board for 12 years, and I'm a founding member of our farm. We've come a long, long way from our early summers of bok choy, bok choy, bok choy, to creating a 4-season farm providing delicious vegetables. Especially enjoyable to me are the greens in our winter share. It's been my privilege as a board member to support the growth and development of our farm and to help solve some challenging situations, floods, COVID. Most importantly, to provide support for Andy and our wonderful farmers. I would very much like to continue to participate on the ICF Co-op board. Thank you for your support.
Hi, my name is Manny St. Hilaire, and I'm running to be on the board at the Intervale Community Farm Co-op. And I'm here to tell you a little bit about myself. So I used to work down at the Intervale. I most recently was managing at the Intervale Conservation Nursery, and I was down there for about 4 years. And before that, I had some tenure at the Intervale, intermittently over 10 years, and then full-time for 4 years. And in that time, I really got to get a good sense of the land and the ecosystem and the community and the culture. And I have really found it to be a place that I can call home. And as being part of the Intervale Farmers Equipment Cooperative, also known as IFEC, also known as Red Top, is where I really got to know a lot of the people and be able to call them colleagues at the Intervale Community Farm. And then I got to also become a customer of the ICF Annual CSA for the past 4 years and be able to experience what it was like to be a customer of an amazing product that my colleagues grew. So through all of that experience, I've really found a lot of passion in trying to find ways to continue to connect my experience with the Intervale and being able to promote more of the work that's happening down there. Right now, I'm the project resource manager in an agroforestry startup called Propagate Ventures, and I work completely remotely here in Burlington, Vermont. And I really want to continue to bring my experience at the Intervale Center and my passion for lands-based career work and my experience now in the agroforestry realm to bring forth more of that experience into the board and help ICF in making some really tough decisions. So it'd be great if you had some faith in me and wanted to vote, and please feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Hi, I'm Mark Twerry. I've been a member of the Intervale Community Farm since 1998, so 24 years. And I've been on the board for 6 years, and I would like to run again. I've done a lot with the board. I've been coordinating or co-coordinating the volunteer work days at the farm this past summer. I've been active with the little free libraries that are at the farm, building them and stocking them. And I've used my background in ecology and forestry to help the farm deal with gypsy moths this year and help with the orchard. And I'm also very committed to the cooperative nature of the farm and cooperatives in general. And I'm happy to be able to continue promoting the cooperative perspective as we work through new issues like COVID and our current efforts at racial equity. And I would like very much for you to support me for another term on the board. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kathy, Liz, Mandy, and Mark for your willingness to run for the ICF board. So just to recap, watch for the email. If you aren't a current member of the Intervale Community Farm Cooperative, which is the co-op that owns Intervale Community Farm, the CSA, you too can join. It's super easy, and there's a lot of great reasons to do it. For a little bit more on that, we have another video from two of our current board members, Bonnie Acker and Christopher McCandless.
Hi there, I'm Bonnie Acker. I've been a member of the farm for 30 years and a member of our co-op aspect of our farm since that began. And this is a shout out for more of you to become cooperative members. And the advantage of this is it gives you a chance to have a lasting impact toward improvements and innovations on our farm. Your membership dollars come in, we don't have to borrow funds, pay interest, and with those extra funds, which could be thousands of dollars this winter, we can do innovations to help the farm staff to go more towards sustainable energy, to increase our donations of food to the wider community. So we have 200 co-op memberships right now. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could get another 100 co-op memberships this winter? Thank you so much for considering this, and thank you for being part of our annual meeting right here.
Hello, I'm Christopher McCandless and member of the Intervale Community Farm Cooperative. Last year we celebrated in a wonderful time together the 30th anniversary of our farm. But it was just 11 years ago that it became a consumer-owned cooperative. And we're here today to encourage you to become members. You can become a member of the co-op for just $200, which is payable over the course of 8 years at $25 a year if you need to do it that way. By becoming a member of the co-op, you provide the farm with money that it can use to develop new projects. You save us from having to go and borrow money when we want to build something or put in new solar panels. And you also have the right to run for the board of directors, vote in elections, and help to steer the direction of the farm, because the board is the group that provides oversight to our farm manager. You also get priority choice for a summer or winter share in our co-op. And finally, as all co-ops hope, somewhere down the road, there may be a patronage refund. So I want to encourage you to think about joining the co-op and putting up your money to become one of our members. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Christopher. So it's easy if you're not a co-op member. It's easy to do. You can join on our website. We have a co-op membership page. You can ask or talk to somebody at a pickup, or you can email Kathy, and we will welcome you warmly into the Intervale Community Farm membership. And as Christopher said, no more than $25 a year to stay in good standing. So with that, we are now into the question and answer phase of the meeting. Kathy, what have you collected?
Well, viewers, we have lots of good questions tonight. I'm going to answer the first one. Somebody asked how many people were in attendance at this meeting, and 52 people registered, but 40 are in attendance. And by comparison to a pre-COVID annual meeting in person, my guess is that we might have had maybe 50, 60, 70 people come in person. But remember, that always included food. So unless you have food tonight, we're probably fewer people than we would have liked. Andy, the first questions for you are, it's a two-parter. Can we come to the winter share to purchase food when allowed without buying a winter share? And will there be any pop-up winter sales?
Wonderful. Great question. We have done this a few years, and we hope to have at least a Thanksgiving market on the day before the Wednesday of the week of Thanksgiving. The caveat is that given that we're still wrapped up in COVID, we did not assign people to specific time brackets this year to come during the winter share. We just want to check out what the traffic looks like this week to see if it seems like we're really crowded in the winter share facility. Then we probably wouldn't want to invite in the additional 30 or 40 folks that would show up for that particular holiday market. But if it seems like that would be pretty manageable, which I'm certainly hoping that's the case, we will do that. So we'll let you know probably within the next 5 to 7 days whether that's going to be a possibility. And for those who aren't familiar with it, I should have said at the beginning, if you don't have a winter share, you can still come on at that holiday seasonal market, and then you can basically buy a lot of the same stuff just for a one-time price that we have available. So it's a lot of root vegetables, cabbages, squashes, whatever kinds of green things that we have in abundance at that particular time.
Okay, Andy, how is our farm doing as a business? Are we building equity and ownership? And then speaking of the future with equity, is the inside-outside acreage the right size for the future? Or should we be doing less acreage or more acreage?
So first, let me talk about the business side of things first. ICF is stable and on financially sound footing. I think where I would like us and the board and the staff, we've all been working to figure out how we can do things that will result in better wages for staff. We've been dedicating an increasing amount of the overall budget of the farm to wages, but there's still a long ways we could go. Agriculture is a low wage occupation, so even if we're, better than average, that still doesn't do a lot when you're living in a place like Burlington that is becoming increasingly expensive. So ICF is stable. We can weather ups and downs like you have with COVID or flooding or things like that. And we have invested in a lot of assets and facilities. We have greenhouses and buildings and equipment and things like that, all of which are really useful in allowing us to do a lot more for our members. So growing food for 12 months of the year and supplying people with a wide variety of things through summer and winter. So I think in that sense, we're in good shape and we'd like to be able to do more. So we're always looking for other opportunities. As for the land question, right now we have the land that we have and we're trying to make the best use of it, at the same time being mindful of the fact that we need to leave some of it aside every year for us to properly steward the soil and our long-term sustainability in that sense. So it would be great for us to have another 10 or 15 acres, even if we didn't grow any more vegetables. But finding that in a place that's close enough that transportation doesn't become a major cost and impediment, that is, not more flood prone than our current land. As you can imagine, there isn't a lot of that in the greater Burlington area. So we're always on a lookout, always hopeful that something will come together. But right now we're trying to make the best use of the land that we have.
Andy, is there something that you learned from another farm or organization this year that our farm might adopt for the future?
I would say that a lot of the learning that I've been doing and that I think a lot of the staff has been talking about has been thinking about what's our, in the process that May was discussing and that the staff has been going through with the board and separately as well, of thinking about racial justice and equity and what we can do. So the Abenaki Land Link project is something that was a tangible thing that we felt like we could do that would contribute some positive things to the wider community. But I think there's a lot that we've learned from our racial justice training workshops. A lot of staff have been doing a lot of work on their own, attending other trainings, more agriculturally specific, and thinking a lot about what's our equity future look like, and what can we do at Intervale Community Farm to make ICF as welcoming and inviting a place for as many people as possible on as broad section of the wider Burlington community as possible. And also recognizing that there are lots of different ways that things can happen, and trying to be thoughtful about what ICF can do.
Now I have some questions about the products that we offer. The first question is, how can a member influence which vegetables ICF grows?
Well, the best chance of influencing what we grow is to talk directly to ICF farmers at pickup. So, you know, strike up a conversation with me or anyone else. We always love to hear what people enjoy or what you wish we grew or did differently. So that's really the most direct route. It's also really helpful to us if you fill out the end of the season surveys, and that's true for both the summer survey and the winter survey. I see Maria has posted the survey, the summer survey, which is still open in the chat. So if you haven't taken that, now's your opportunity to pick up that link once again and take that. We look at those surveys every year and the results of those, and use those to help us plan what we're doing, what crops we're thinking of. And at ICF, we're always trying to thread the needle a little bit between what can we do that's delicious, nutritious, and really enjoyable to eat, and at the same time is productive enough that we can produce it economically in such a way that we can not have to charge as much as if it was a highly special, super expensive seed or variety that only yields a third as much as some of the other things. So we're always balancing some of those unique qualities with pricing. And so we do some things of one sort, and then we also often just stick to, you know, more standard versions of high quality versions of a more standard sort. Like we don't do 4 or 5 different varieties of carrots. We grow, you know, a couple varieties of carrots, and generally that works out really well this year, notwithstanding. So.
And you're always looking for crops that will store well, right?
Yeah, for the winter share, we're always interested in things that will store well and provide diversity throughout the winter months, and also for green things that we can grow that are super hardy and that will survive a Vermont winter with a tiny little thin blanket, about like a tea towel, inside of an unheated greenhouse. So yeah, we're always on the lookout for new ideas. So we really do appreciate them on the survey or in person.
Will the farm be adding other outside products like beef, lamb, or chicken?
We don't have plans to specifically add those on a regular basis. We have had a partnership for a number of years with Singing Cedars Farm in Orwell. Becky Madden, who worked at ICF for about a decade, and now she and her husband have a farm where they have beef. So we have their beef on a periodic basis through the winter. They usually will do a pre-order for people. So that we expect to be available this winter on a periodic basis, and we're getting the schedule still from them. And for winter this year, we've also partnered with the Intervale Food Hub for the first time. So the ICF is a pickup location that you can come to and get your Intervale Food Hub order. So the Food Hub has, Kathy, you probably remember, what is it, like 200 products or 150 products or something?
Yeah, from 80.
A lot of different really nice Vermont locally grown and produced products and a whole range of things from dairy to meats to processed foods. And those are available through the ICF portal. You have to use the link that Kathy sent out, or we can provide you, and it's available on our website on our supplemental products page. And then you can put in an order on any given week and pick up those things at WinterShare just to save you a step of having to find those elsewhere. So I'm excited about that. It's a new approach for us and for the Intervale Food Hub. ICF has talked for years about offering a lot of supplemental products consistently, and when we've tried it, we've often just found that there wasn't enough consistent demand for it to make managing the inventory make sense for us. But since the Food Hub is doing it, and they're just dropping off these pre-packed bags, and then you can pick it up at your WinterShare, it seems like a good opportunity for those who are interested. So you can check it out. Again, you can find it on our website or in forthcoming WinterShare communications. The Food Hub folks will also be tabling at the next several WinterShares, so they'll be in person. They'll be there in person if you want to ask them about it. If it's a successful program, it's the kind of thing we might extend to summer, although at this point we have to see how it goes this winter.
I have a couple of questions about how the co-op membership works. Can you explain how the membership is a purchase of equity and it's not a fee and is refundable if someone leaves the co-op?
Yeah, so ICF, like a lot of co-ops, say City Market or most of the food cooperatives around the state, you can shop there if you're not a member. So at ICF, you can get a CSA share without being a co-op member. So you can have your small share. But if you're a co-op member, what you are is you're investing in the future success and long-term stability of Intervale Community Farm. And so the $200 co-op share, co-op equity, goes towards our working capital, as Christopher and Bonnie explained. And it is, if you ever decide to leave ICF or you leave the area, it is refundable. So you can get your co-op share money back if you want it when you leave, or if you leave. So you can pay it in $25 a year for 8 years. You get to vote in the board of directors elections, run for the board of directors, get first dibs on summer shares and winter shares, which we do run out of, Kathy can tell you. And also there is always that elusive possibility of patronage dividends, although no time in the predicted future for that. So really, the ICF co-op membership is a great way to support ICF if you believe in the mission, you believe in what we're doing, and you want to see ICF survive and thrive for the long term. And if you leave, you can get all of that $200 back.
And when I pay the $200, is it my family or an individual who is becoming the member? And can I have more than one membership per household?
Yes, so membership by law is an individual, but we do have households who have 2, even I think maybe 1 that has 3 co-op members in the household.
Actually, 2 households that I can think of.
There you go.
With 3 memberships. Do you need to, I had a question about the Abenaki garden space. I'm not sure whether everything you said after the question came in answered it enough. Do you plan to go forward with this plan and do it again next year, or was it a one-time effort?
I would say we hope and expect that we'll be able to do it again in the future. We may, I think, based on our experience, we probably won't volunteer to grow beans again because we were we did very poorly. But the squash and the corn both did well, and I think we would be really excited to continue to do that and to do more if that's something that is of interest. I think, you know, they have an interest in testing out the growers, and just as we wouldn't want to volunteer to grow beans, they probably wouldn't want to choose us to grow beans. So So I'm hopeful that, you know, we'll be an organization and people that that it's appealing to work with, and that we can continue to grow and develop that partnership over time.
And those 3 crops were picked specifically because?
Those are the traditional Three Sisters crops of Native peoples, corn, beets, and squash. The particular varieties are things that are locally, were locally grown, locally adapted from the Northeast and this particular area by Native peoples here. Allie knows a little bit more of the ins and outs of the specifics of that, but that's the basic idea.
And I think we have just one more question that came in. I will say there was a question about the recording. We will be posting a recording so that people can review this or tell others about attending the meeting after the fact. I want to go back to the solar system for a bit. You were talking about some funding that came in. When will we be able to thank our benefactor or know more about that?
Soon, I hope. I've been waiting till all of the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, and it continues to not quite be to that point, but we're getting closer and closer. We're now on to second rounds of certificates of insurance and things like that on the different buildings. So I'm optimistic it will be soon, when we can really make a little bit more of that information known to everybody.
Great. Those are all the questions that have come in. I'll say that if there are more questions, you can just email them to us, or as Andy said, you can talk to any of the farmers at a pickup.
Thank you, Kathy. And thank you, everybody, for attending tonight. It's great to know that all of you are out there supporting ICF. Thank you to the board. Thank you to the staff. Thank you to Maria for helping us stay on track. And thank you to the candidates for running for election. So again, look for the link to the video later. If you'd like to watch it or share it, look for that email coming from Intervale Community Farm for your ballot. And thank you all for coming tonight. Good night.